Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast off the Underside. Hope we're all good. Today, I've got a very exciting guest. I'm looking forward to this one because we're going to be mixing a wee bit of wrestling and football. This guy's a very big wrestling content creator on TikTok with over 18,000 followers. If you're a wrestling fan, you're bound to have seen him on TikTok, man. He's class. Watch a lot of his live streams that he does for AEW, WWE. You know, he's very, very committed to what he does, and it's brilliant to watch him, man. Just chill out and watch these. And one of the things as well, Parky, is like your reactions to things are just amazing, mate. Absolutely love watching them, man. So we've got Parkystreams from TikTok. How you doing, Parky?
Pleasure being on, Jamie. Thanks very much for having me on. I'm loving the gas, mate. I'm loving the gas that you were giving me right there. The big ups and the reactions, because I like that's one thing that I'm very very proud of. I would say is my reactions to things. They're just very over the top, but that's what you need to do when it comes to this type of content, man. Like you need to be different. You need to be out there. You need to be. It also needs to be raw and real at the same time. So just having that, just kind of, I'm just me, like, but I'm also me turned up to 11 because 9 times out of 10, I've probably drank 2 bottles of Buckfast by this point.
I was going to
So,
speak to you about that. But I mean, how did it all come about then that you started doing parky streams on TikTok?
right. So basically, what had happened is I had started the Twitch account in, funnily enough, 2018. Um, I was just off, like, just when I could, just streaming games, but at this point I didn't have my PC, I didn't have any of my big rig, didn't have my big camera or the good microphone. I was literally just streaming off the PlayStation, just streaming the game right up to Twitch. And it's like it is anytime a new streamer starts on Twitch. It's a very slow build. Um Especially when you're playing games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, like you're trying to compete with another 200,000 people who are also streaming that game. So it's a very slow build. And it was, funnily enough, it was actually Clash at the Castle in Wales. So the first one they did, I just started watching that with a couple of guys in my Discord, and a lot more people started coming in and getting involved. And I was like, okay. So then I started doing AEW with my friend Mark, and that started picking up a bit of traction. And I was like, all right, so wrestling is where it's at with what people want to see from my channel. And it's what getting people involved and interacting with the stream. So I made the decision in 2022 to just do wrestling full time, and I haven't looked back since.
So was wrestling always like a big passion of yours when you were younger and stuff?
Mate, it was a very big part of my life. Very big part of my life from like 2006 to, I think I kind of fell away from it in 2014, 2015, like the really dark days of WWE at that point. It was brutal if you remember it at all. Anyone that's listening, or yourself, Jamie, if you remember it, mate, it was brutal in about 2015 and 2016 and all that. And then obviously it started to kind of pick up a bit more traction. 2017, 2018, obviously I was getting involved with actually wrestling. But I think my kind of callback to wrestling was when I discovered ICW. So ICW Fear and Loathing, the first one they did at the Barrowlands, was my first show that I saw from ICW, because I had just turned 18 at the point, and I had knew a few folk that were already going. And they're like, oh, mate, you get a ticket. So I bought my ticket the day of, and I was like, right, I'm coming. Got there, managed to get right to the barrier. So right to the barrier for my first ICW show, and seeing Jack Jester versus Drew Galloway at the time. Now, obviously, Drew McIntyre back in WWE for the ICW World Heavyweight Championship was cinema. I mean, when you don't really know much about British wrestling, and you discover that there's a company putting on great shows, if not better than what WWE was putting on at that time, just round the corner for where I was living, it's a no-brainer. And it just ignited the love of wrestling back in my soul and ended up leading me towards going down the training route and becoming a professional wrestler at one point in my life.
Did you? So did you actually work for ICW or any other of these companies?
So I did work for ICW. I was a member of the ring crew for a very long period of time. Worked on the very first Hydro show, done a couple of tours with ICW. Ultimately, things happened. It's the nature of the beast, unfortunately, and I was let go from ICW. Now it was nothing to do with ICW. They were caught between a rock and a hard place. I always hold my hands up and say it was always my fault. The issues that happened, and I'll always hold that to great respect that they had no choice, and I still talk to a lot of the guys from ICW. There's no hard feelings. Like, it's the business at the end of the day. Like, especially when it was round about that time when they had that deal going with WWE and the WWE network, and they were getting all the stuff put on the network. It was quite a sensitive time point for the stuff that happened to happen. So it's there's not much that can be done about it. Like I said, I still hold my hands up to this day and go, I was the one that fucked up here. Oh, can I swear on this podcast?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I know I've never actually went to one of those shows, mate, but I've seen quite a bit, obviously, the TV shows, and I've met Mark Dallas, and he's a really nice guy, you know what I mean? And you know, what he built there was incredible, eh?
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for Mark. Obviously, it was a bit sad when he decided that he was done with ICW, but he's managed to keep his foot in the door in regards to the wrestling business, as he's dealing with Jinder Mahal's new company. I can't remember. I think it's WXM. I believe the new company is that they're running in India. So he's still doing a fair bit for wrestling, but obviously he's now got his own new podcast as well with the Wee Man and Roy, and that's hilarious as well. So I mean, he's always been really good. He's always been really he's so business smart. It's quite scary at the same time because he just knows. He also knows what's good and what's good to put out there on the internet, and what's like, let's just leave that alone.
Yeah. Let's go back to your TikTok for a wee bit, mate, and obviously your Twitch and that as well. How is it you plan these things out? Because obviously these wrestling shows going for 3-4 hours and that, and as you say, mate, you sit with your bottles of bucky and that. Do you just plan, you know? Because I've noticed as well, you're going like maybe up to an hour before it as well, just to sit and chat to people and that, and then obviously you're on for the entire show. So how do you plan that out, mate? Do you just kind of, you know, you know the hours that you're available basically and go for it?
So I'm very privileged in the way that my work have given me such a time scale for when I need to be in and not to allow me to do my streams. Obviously when I kind of first kicked off, I wasn't really working. So I was when I first started, I was on like 3 hours before the show on Friday nights, just having a laugh with people that were coming on. People were requesting songs. Obviously, when the wine gets flowing, I'm a formal musical theatre student myself, so that's what I did at college. So anytime there's a song that I know and like singing, I just sing it, mate. I just sing. So there's no real planning when it comes to Monday Night Raw, Wednesday Night Dynamite, Friday Night SmackDown, Saturday Night Collision. There's no real planning for that. There's a lot more planning with my big streams. So this year was one of the biggest streams that I'd done to date. I did 4 days consecutive for WrestleMania weekend. So I did Friday Night SmackDown, Saturday night 1 of Mania, night 2 of Mania, and then Monday Night Raw. And it was like consecutive straight through, no breaks, no nothing, except the fact that I did go and sleep for an hour. But there's a lot more planning when it comes to that, because obviously you've got four 24-hour slots of stuff that you need to find. So you need to make sure you've got loads of things there to be able to keep people entertained. I'd say I did reasonably well, especially considering the fact that still to this day it's one of the best it's one of the best streams I've done analytically, if that makes sense. And for those who don't know what it means, what I mean by what I'm saying analytically, the views, the interaction, the comments, everything was up in the high 40s, 50s, 60s, which is mental, right? Anytime it's like an average stream, I average about 7 to 10 people on Twitch, and then TikTok can be a bit more volatile, but 9 times out of 10, when people see that you're not streaming the actual show on TikTok because it's illegal, they kind of just fall off. It's like, oh boo, you're not showing it, blah blah blah. And I was like, mate, see if you don't want to pay for the product, then you can't really complain about it. Especially when I'm trying to when you're trying to make me put my channel at risk of getting banned, because that's what happened with my very first channel. So this is my second account that I'm currently running, that's managed to get to the 18K. The first account I had was up at 9,000. It was so close to hitting the 10K, and I thought, I'll be a good guy. I'll show the stream, and they just didn't like that. So lost the first account and then had to work my way back. But the fact that I've hit 18K with this account in the space of a year is mental. But I think it's also, if I didn't lose that first account, I wouldn't be as head smart with what to do in my streams and how to act when it comes to being on TikTok and things like that, because TikTok are very strict with their lives. I mean, I know I'll get there's been a lot of account warnings, not account warnings, live warnings, because apparently I've been soliciting for gifts on my account, and I've been watching the streams back, and I was like, I've not once asked anyone for gifts for anything.
I've never seen you ask for a gift.
Like, I don't ask for gifts. Like, obviously I'll do challenges. Like the last couple of weeks I've been doing, because I've been getting ready to go back into the ring at the end of October. I've got a wee treadmill there, right? So I was doing, if anyone gifts subs, a sub equals 10 minutes on that treadmill, right? So the one of the first nights I did it, I'm pretty sure someone had gifted like 10 subs. So I was on that for at least an hour, I think an hour 40, I think it was. So I was dead after that. And then people were gifting roses on TikTok, and I was like, right, for every rose I'll do a squat. 370 roses I got that night. My legs hated me. My legs hated me for 3 days.
It was get you fit for the ring anyway, wasn't it?
You need to, mate. You need to. Wrestling's one of those most. It's the most enduring sport I've ever been a part of, because it's not just you need to be physically fit. You need to know exactly what's going to come next, what's happening, how to do this, how to take that. Like, it's just, there's so much. There's so many aspects of wrestling that it's not just like going out and playing a game of football, because that's what because playing a game of football, you're just focused on getting the ball to one of your strikers so that he can get it in the back of the net. Whereas wrestling, you need to make sure your opponent's safe. You need to make sure you're keeping safe. You need to make sure the fans are still engaged with your match. You need to make sure that you don't go over your time. You need to make sure that you don't mess up a move. You need to make sure that you stay in character. Like, there's just so many more aspects to it. It is a very, very difficult sport, and a lot of people don't get that. And this is what really annoys me about the internet wrestling community as well. It's like when people comment on football, They've been playing football for 10, 15, 20 years of their life, right? People who comment on wrestling, they've only ever watched wrestling. I guarantee, I want to say to about 90 to 95% of people that watch wrestling have never stepped foot in a wrestling ring.
So I'd agree with that. I've never done it anyway, personally.
So they just don't know what's required. They think, oh, it's just a bit of play fighting. It's like, no, it's not. There's so much more to it.
But surely that's not a wrestling fan that really thinks that, because, you know, if you're a proper wrestling fan, mate, surely everybody knows that, you know, see, when people go, it's fake and that, it's going to be further for the truth, you know. Obviously, there's people getting injured all the time. You look at a guy like Kurt Angle, you know what I mean? He's still absolutely fucked, you know, from years and years ago. He can't get in a ring, you know. Yeah, it's an extremely dangerous sport.
Exactly. There's so many risks to it. What was it? It was Chris Jericho that said something. It's like he hates the word botched because it's live TV. Like you can't, like, there's not much you can do if a mistake happens. It's the same with football. It's like if someone passes the ball to the opposition, they don't go, oh, he's just botched that pass. It's like that pass was intercepted.
Right. I know what you mean. No, definitely. I mean, it really does annoy me when people say it's fake or whatever. And I always remember, I actually seen it the other day, that Vince McMahon interview, and somebody said, you know, he was, I can't remember where he was, but like somebody was saying, it's a fake. And he's like, what do you mean fake? How's it fake? I'm like, well, you know, come on, it's pretending. He's like, it's no pretending. He was, you know, Vince is like, you know what I mean? But like, have you actually seen that documentary, Vince?
The one on Netflix?
Aye.
I did watch it.
What did you make it?
So, it didn't really tell us anything that we didn't already know. I think it just more shed the light and pulled the curtain back to show us that Vince wasn't really playing a character. Vince was just being Vince.
100%. You know, you look at all the stuff that's come out now about him and stuff like that, and then obviously you go back to like I grew up in the Attitude Era, mate. So like, I remember all the kind of, you know, the lady kind of stuff. You know what I mean? The nighting gown stuff and all that, and you know, some of the way they would never do that now. Obviously, women's wrestling is much more respected, but like, you know, back then you had Sable just basically, remember that one? She's basically got a tits out. You know what I mean? And all these other ones as well. So. Yep. That's definitely Vince.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you said it there. Women's wrestling has become a lot more respected. I would say it's they've. So back in the day, women's wrestling was. I don't want to say it was classified as a gimmick, but it was. It was just classified as a gimmick, and then you had the trailblazers like Lita, Trish Stratus, Mickey James, who were actually like, no, we want to prove that women's wrestling is not something to laugh at, or not something to go and get a beer from the bar at, or go to the toilet. It's something that you want to not take your eyes off of, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's when the women's revolution came around. It was like, oh, okay, so some of these women are actually hitting harder than the men, right? Okay. And especially now, like going, like I'm taking away from WWE at the minute, going to AEW. There was a match on Collision just this Saturday. It was Jet Speed and Willow Nightingale versus FTR and Megan Bayne. And Megan Bayne was battering the absolute living daylight out of Jet Speed, and then Willow was battering FTR, and I'm like, this is great. I love this. Like, hit them, just batter them.
Since we're on the subject of AEW, how do you feel they're getting on, mate? I know that obviously I watch a lot of wrestling podcasts. I watch like Eric Bischoff's and you know, Vince Russo's and stuff like that, and they're very, very critical. Like AEW, they're very, very critical of Tony Khan. What do you make of the content, mate? I know that you're a bit of a fan, aren't you?
So I have openly said that AEW has excited me so much more in the last 6 months than WWE has, right? And it's just, I think it's more the creative freedom that the guys at AEW have. It very much feels like a televised indie in a sense, right?
Yeah.
In a sense, to the point that they are pretty much like, right, you can't do this and this, but apart from that, go nuts. And you can see it. Why do you think Adam Copeland wanted to go over to AEW? Because he was hearing so much from Christian going, oh, it's great. Like, there's so much freedom. Like, I'm getting to do what I want to do. And we saw one of the best evolutions of Christian's character develop in AEW when he won that TNT title and made it prestigious enough to be like, right, I know Moxley's got the world title at the minute, but I want to know what's happening with this TNT because Christian's just being an arsehole, and I want to see him get the living shit kicked out of him. But in the same instance, I'm like, I really want him to still keep holding this title because he's making it something. He was making the TNT title relevant. Now, I mean, Kyle Fletcher's got the TNT title, but he's getting overshadowed by the Don Callis family, which is very much becoming like NWO at this moment in time. He's just taking everyone and bringing them into this faction. And I'm like, we saw this. This has happened before. It didn't work before. Stop trying to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that a lot of these guys are critical of, like, because I've seen Vince Russo and that as well, talk about WWE, talk about Triple H and that. And I was thinking about this the other day, you know, in relation to like football, right? So obviously, you know, in this day and age, you've got like playing for the back, and you know, like back in the day, it was 4-4-2, and you know, a lot of the kind of ex players we talk to now, right, are basically saying, you know, they wish they would go back again to the 4-4-2. Do you think it's similar in wrestling with guys like Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff and that you know they're looking at this product and like obviously they're old school and they've no kind of evolved with the times, if you know what I mean?
So it is. I believe you've hit the nail right on the head there. It's just the old school mentality. I think the only couple of people that have stepped out from that old school mentality is very much Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Like, you think about it, they were namesakes in the kind of rise of the Attitude Era, during the Attitude Era, the early 2000s. Like, they were namestays. Like, they made that product at that time.
Yeah.
But they also came from a very old school background. Like, they were trained by old school guys like Harley Race. Like, they were brought up in that old school mentality. But they're also part of the people that kind of, you know, broke the fourth wall with the curtain call when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were leaving for WCW. Like, that was one of the very first times that the kind of curtain was pulled back. So right, I think Shawn and Triple H knew what direction that the wrestling business was going in, and they've adapted and they've welcomed it. Guys like Vince Russo, guys like Eric Bischoff, they want to go back. They want to stay in their glory days, as it would seem. Like, because they were on, like, especially like Eric Bischoff, he was on like cloud nine when WCW was at its peak. Like, he was loving life. Like, he was living the dream because it was still like the old school way. Now we're now in what, the 21st century, and like, wrestling's had to adapt and change and move forward, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now. Like people, I don't want to use the term snowflake, but it's just too easy. It's just there. Like too many people are oversensitive, and I'm putting it all down to the internet. The internet has killed television, right? To the point that we're never going to get another Attitude Era. We're never going to get another, I say invasion, but we technically did with the TNA showdown with NXT. But even then, that was kind of like, really? We've seen this. It didn't, it came to fruition and the show was great. But I just feel like, I feel TKO, not WWE, TKO is ruining wrestling at the minute.
Aye, I'd agree with that, mate, obviously, because they're obviously Hollywood, though, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're thinking about TV. They're not really thinking about the product of wrestling, though, are they?
They're thinking about capitalization. They're thinking about what can we do to make the most money out of these people. And it was an interview that came out recently that Vince McMahon's pricing points was aimed at families, because it was meant to be a family friendly weekend out. Like you could spend $250 and get you, your wife, your 3 kids to the show, and then you can spend another $100. Everyone got a t-shirt, maybe we got a foam finger. You all bring your signs. Well, they all have a good night out. Now you're now looking at taking out a loan just to get a ticket.
I know, because obviously my son, he's 10, he's into wrestling just now, and obviously last year was Clash of the Castle, wasn't it? Or was it this year? Was it this year?
It's last year.
Last year, right. And I was looking at the prices and I was going, no chance could I take it with that. Luckily, we did go a few years ago when it was at the Hydro. But, you know, the prices now are ridiculous, mate. I went to Newcastle in 1999 when I was 13 years old. And it was brilliant, mate. Obviously, The Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, everybody was all there. But now, like, even at that, you know, you're not getting all the main wrestlers, I don't think, at all these big ones, you know what I mean? You're not guaranteed of, you're paying all this money and you're not guaranteed to actually see your favourite wrestlers.
Exactly. And that's where AEW is thriving at the minute, because you can get 4 tickets for AEW for £120.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'm holding off at the minute. I'm holding off for sorry, my mother's just texted me about a passport because I'm going to Amsterdam.
Sorry.
I'm going to Amsterdam to see Luke Combs, because the price of tickets at Luke Combs in Amsterdam is like a third of the price of what it was in Edinburgh, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But all right, I'll happily go to Amsterdam. What was I saying there?
Just about the prices and stuff.
Yeah,
AEW.
so I'm currently holding off because AEW is coming to Manchester in December for an episode of Dynamite. So I'm currently holding off because the ticket prices aren't bad, but for where I'm wanting to sit, you're still talking like £190. But if you compared that to the same seat that WWE are trying to flog you, you're talking double that, maybe even double and some change on top of it, just for the same seat. I was lucky enough to get to the Monday Night Raw show before Mania that was in Glasgow, but I'd got gifted my ticket, but I was up in the gods. For it. We were just lucky enough to be able to get an upgrade. So we had got an £800 ticket for nothing. And there was guys that were sitting around us going, I'd paid £600 for my ticket. I was like, I didn't pay anything. This is what I'm learning, especially about AEW. Like, don't buy your ticket straight away, because they will come down. It doesn't seem to be happening with WWE. especially when it comes to Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster are ruining the way of getting tickets, and they're ruining the experience for fans as well. It's just there's just so many hidden fees and competitive pricing, and they're just trying to it's rip the punter. That's all it is. It's like they're keeping these events for the people. They're keeping them for the rich.
And that's a shame. That is a shame because, as you say, Vince did do it for the families and stuff. And aye, you're not going to see many kids there these days and stuff if you're going to do that kind of prices and that. But going back to yourself, mate, growing up and that, obviously you're a wrestling fan. Who in particular did you enjoy watching yourself?
Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was my guy. Shawn Michaels, John Cena, Edge. I'm a massive Edge head. And I'm so grateful that I managed to out of the people who I grew up watching. I'm very privileged that I managed to get to see Edge wrestle live in London at Forbidden Door, and I'm man enough to admit it. I cried like a bubbling baby.
Mate, like, that's why people love watching you though, because you're as you say, it's raw and honest and that. And I've seen you cry. I think you were crying. You're crying when LA Knight won, didn't you? One and I was sitting watching that, and I was like, "This is brilliant, man. This is class."
SummerSlam when he finally won the US title. I literally, it was so funny because I was just crying my eyes out. my missus my missus at the time, opened the door and went, "Are you all right?" It was like, I'm just so happy.
But I think that's what wrestling's good at, mate. It's just like it's kind of similar to football again. It's like it takes you back and you feel like a kid. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's nostalgic and stuff as well.
It's always been I've always looked at it as a case of you can just forget the world for a few hours and just ride that roller coaster of emotions, because that's just what people need. Like it's good for the soul having that waves of different emotions coming through you all at once, because you leave the venue going, I thoroughly enjoyed my night. It's like I'm just riding that high. I was like, right, let's go get a pizza.
What's been your favourite match you've ever watched?
Swerve Bryan Danielson all in.
All right.
Just because I was at it. Because I saw it live, and just hearing 80,000 people at Wembley screaming the final countdown, like goosebumps all down the back of my neck, all up my arms. Like you could see how much it meant to Danielson as well. Like when he heard 80,000 people scream it back at him, because all he could do is look at Justin Roberts and laugh his head off. Like the emotion, the passion that both Swerve and Danielson had, and just the story that they had built. And it was like there wasn't even that much of a build to it. Like Danielson had won the opportunity to face Swerve, so he was like, the match was set, but there wasn't really any big story building. Like we knew Danielson wanted to win the world title in AEW. We knew that was one of his goals when he came to AEW. And Swerve was one of the top heels at the time. Like everyone like speak. It's the same with everything nowadays. Like there's so many heels that get a cheer from people in the crowd because they want to be different. It's like, oh, I'm not going to go for the face. I want to go for that guy. But even with that, like majority of that crowd was backing Danielson that night, and it was just a magical moment, not just to be a part of, but to witness. It was just every moment of it, every hit felt like you felt it. Like, you felt every punch, every kick, every house call, curb stomp, a psycho knee. You felt everything in that match. And there hasn't been very many matches that I can say that I had that with. Maybe a close second might have been, I want to say MJF Adam Cole, because there was just so much story building with that one. There was so much story building, like the becoming it, being a tag team, like not wanting to be a tag team, then gelling together, then becoming one of the greatest things to happen with their characters. Them winning the ROH tag team titles at the beginning of the night, and then having to wrestle each other at the end of the night for the world title, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, is MJF just going to be MJF? Is he going to turn on Adam Cole? Is Adam Cole going to snap? Is he going to turn on MJF? And it just ends with those two hugging in the middle of the ring, and then Tony Khan coming out and screaming that they're coming back to Wembley. You're just like, what? What's going on?
Brilliant. Love it, mate. A couple more wrestling questions before we get into a wee bit of football as well. If you could go into WWE and AEW, there might be two separate answers here, but if you could change one thing about each of them, what would you go in and change?
With AEW, I would probably put it down to Tony's obsession to making 12-match pay-per-view cards. I would cut that down. I mean, even like 12's all right. Like, they've built enough story for them to warrant the 12 matches, but like, especially when it comes to us, like in the UK, like we're up till like 4, 5, 6 in the morning waiting for the main event, and when the main event comes around, we're emotionally spent because all we've done is sit at our screen and like, aye, pretty much. With WWE, get rid of TKO.
Never going to happen. Was it, man? Too much money.
I know it's never going to happen, but it's killing WWE to a degree. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still things happening in the WWE that's still really exciting. I mean, the ending of Monday Night Raw just yesterday was definitely spun a few heads. I mean, it's all I've seen on TikTok for the last 12 hours is people reacting, talking about it, questioning it. And I'm gonna put it down to ratings. I don't think that was meant to happen this early. I think that was meant to happen at War Games. But the ratings and the viewership and just the lack of fans going to shows because they can't afford it has really impacted them, and TKO's saw that and saw a dip and went, right, we need to change something now. So I think they've pulled the trigger really early because of the ratings. Because, I mean, what was it? SmackDown 2 weeks ago had 10K in attendance, right? SmackDown, well, I mean, I can't even speak about Australia because Australia was a packed house, but no, sorry, 3 weeks ago it was 10K, and then the week before they went to Australia, they only had 7,000 people in that arena. That's a drop of 3,000 people, and if you're charging $300-400 a ticket, that's a big drop in sales. Definitely.
So hopefully one day it will come back down though, and they'll start to realise that they can't treat wrestling fans like us. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think WWE's just seeing dollar signs at the minute and going, yeah, sure, we'll do this. Yeah, sure, we'll do that. Yeah. I mean, it was the same when they took Mania to Saudi. When they're taking Mania to Saudi, it's all just dollar signs and Because what was the bid? I'm pretty sure the bid was something stupid like 400 million that the Saudis bid for WrestleMania. I'm sure it was something mad like that because I'm pretty sure London had offered 9. They'd offered 9 million. And then they just looked at it and went, "Oh, well, we can't compete with that." Yeah. Not in the slightest.
You know what it's like, mate. It's all gone to Saudi these days anyway. But what do you make of John Cena's last year in wrestling? What do you make of obviously the heel turn and now he's back to being a good guy again?
Been great. I've loved every minute. I've loved every minute of it, apart from Cody winning the title again. I cannot stand Cody Rhodes.
Huh?
Cannot stand him. Right, but I think if we go back to when John Cena was coming up, nobody could stand John Cena. Nobody could stand John Cena because he was this indestructible. But I don't know what it is. I think see, because there's so many kids that are just. It was again going back to John Cena. There were so many kids that were very for John Cena, and now like. I was one of those kids. I now have grown up and I have adult money. Well, I have very little adult money, but I still have adult money. Of course, I'm going to go and buy John Cena's merch, every single shirt that he's released for this entire run of his final year. Like, and I think it's just Cody's doing very much the same now. He's very much targeted to the kids in the audience, but there's not many kids in the audience these days.
Aye. I know a lot of people have been quite critical of John Cena going heel, but I think that he wanted it for starters, and then obviously, you know, I thought I enjoyed it as well. To be honest, I thought it was a good kind of turn.
I don't think it was just Cena that wanted it. I think a lot of people wanted Cena to turn heel, like for years. We kind of saw a little bit of it with the Doctor Thugonomics, but it was just the fact that he was slating people on the mic every single week on SmackDown. Like, you couldn't not love him because everything he said was just fucking hilarious. It was just so funny. I'm Brock Lesnar. Here comes the pain. God made me strong. Forgot to give me brain. It's like, how do people think of this?
Don't know, man, but he's definitely great on the mic and that anyway. But last question on wrestling, mate. You've probably answered this before, mate, a few times, but what's your Mount Rushmore? But when I say Mount Rushmore, I don't mean your favourite wrestlers. I mean, who do you think are the 4 biggest stars that wrestling's ever seen?
Oh, God. Well, Hogan needs to be up there, doesn't he? Hogan needs to be the first pillar in that. He changed professional wrestling. He didn't just change professional wrestling. He made professional wrestling pop culture. He made it Americana. Like, he made it a staple of America. Like, you cannot deny what that man did for that business. All right, he had some questionable views, but like, he was larger than life. He was a real life Superman. He was Mr. America. Like, he just spoke volume to so many people. And you can't deny what he did for the business. So Hulk Hogan. And then you need to include Stone Cold Steve Austin into this. The proprietor of the Attitude Era, the John 3:16 promo at King of the Ring. Like, you can't deny that that's the catalyst that kicked off the Attitude Era. He also spoke to a lot of people in a sense that the working class man, they hated their boss. Like, the boss was an arsehole. And then every week you would see Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out and just battering lumps out of Vince McMahon. It's like, yes, this is what I want to do to my boss. Like, get him battered. So Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is where it becomes tricky. I mean, he's getting called the greatest of all time for a reason. You got to put John Cena in that bracket as well. Like, he's very much. I mean, you saw it when Stone Cold Steve Austin got inducted into the Hall of Fame. The passing of the torch from Stone Cold to John Cena with the beer can. Like, he acknowledged that he was the man, the face of the company at that time. Like, he was the man that was taking it to the next level. He was the man that was bringing it into the 21st century. So you'd be silly not to include John Cena in that bracket. The real hard point is, who do you put in the final monument? I mean, do you go back to like the WCW days? Do you go look at guys like Goldberg, guys like Sting, Ric Flair, Harley Race?
Well, you've picked three of the ones that I picked, and I've got another one as well, but you've not said him yet.
I mean, if we're going forward or we're moving to the future, I have a feeling your fourth guy's Roman Reigns.
Nah, another one from back in the day.
Another one from back in the day. Oh God!
Like I say, like, no, my four favourite wrestlers, to be honest, mate. You know, The Rock was one of my heroes growing up, but I've not put him on there. I'm just thinking from like a global kind of wrestling point of view, who was the biggest stars in the world? Do you know what I mean? And this guy, for me, when I was growing up, this guy was like huge.
See, my mind's taking me to Taker, but I mean,
nah.
Taker was great.
Amazing.
Like, loved everything Taker did, but I mean, he didn't really define professional wrestling. He was a great character. He was
Struggle with this one.
Does it have to be wrestlers? Because if we're going with who's made the biggest impact in professional wrestling, Vince McMahon.
He was definitely going there.
Vinnie Mac, like
he'd be number one, wouldn't
he? He brought wrestling to mainstream television. He kind of made a lot of people angry with the whole territories thing, but like, you're not a pizza. Like, not everyone's meant to like you. Like, you're gonna be the villain in someone's story somewhere in the world.
Especially if you're successful, mate. If you're a successful business,
100%.
You need to be ruthless. You know what I mean?
100%. Like, just the way he was doing things, like, he knew the direction that wrestling had to go in for it to survive. Took that chance and created WrestleMania, and has, like, what are we now, 42 coming up, 43?
Yep. I know, just what he turned WWE into, you know, is just an absolute juggernaut. It's a shame, obviously, all the stuff, you know, outside the business and that, but I mean, just an absolute genius of a guy. But the fourth one on my Mount Rushmore is Bret Hart.
Oh, okay. See, I was never a Bret guy.
Nah, to be honest with me either, but I just think, like, when I was younger, man, it was like, I think you can judge it by what you hear over here, like how big they are over here, you know? And like, Bret Hart was massive over here back in the 90s.
Yeah, no, I fully respect that. Like, I mean, a lot of you're either a Sean guy or a Bret guy. I just happened to be
I
just happened to be a Sean guy just because of when I got into wrestling. I mean, I got into wrestling really, really late. Like I got into wrestling in 2006, and the very first thing that I saw in wrestling was the live urination test of Shawn Michaels because Vince McMahon wanted to just fuck with him.
That's right. I
And
remember that.
it was the line is like, Vince, it's better to be pissed off than to be pissed on, and just threw the piss all over him, man. And I'm like, what is this? What is this?
That was crazy, wasn't it, man, back then? And even stuff like the Vince McMahon kiss my ass stage and all that, man. Honestly, that
Oh
you'd never
my
get away with that now.
goodness. My goodness.
Never.
I mean, you're saying kiss my ass. I just thought of an honorary mention. William Regal, like one of the first, like one of the he was one of the first British wrestlers that I'd ever discovered. And he was just a big heel bastard. And I'm like, yeah, you you give off like royal family English vibes. I'm like, yeah, there's a
A very,
reason
very
about.
underrated wrestler as well, I think.
Oh, he's so smart. He's so smart. It's unbelievable. I there was one of the times ICW was on tour and William Regal just happened to be back in Blackpool. So he came to the show and just having just getting that, just not even asking him anything, just listening to him speak to other wrestlers who have had matches and just listening to what he's got to say to them. And I'm just like, wow. Like you are just wrestling personified in the way that no one would think about. But when you hear it, you're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. That actually is so true. It's just there's so many guys, like, especially like, I mean, the performance center is so lucky to have him, Brookside, Tensai, fucking Big Albert, in the performance center as coaches, and they've got Johnny Moss as well. Johnny Moss is a madman.
It's definitely another great thing that they've built there as well, mate. You know, who are you going to put on that fourth place for?
Who am I putting on it?
I've had to push you. Who you going for?
I mean, at the minute, it's just from what's been done in the last decade. You got to put Roman Reigns up there. You've got to, like, he's been a driving force since he made his debut to the main roster, and then obviously after everything that happened with the Shield and him just taking it and running with it, like he is definitely one of the top guys of today's standards.
And especially doing all that, mate, while suffering a horrible illness. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, he's very like, we're all very grateful that that he was in remission and he's currently cancer free at the minute. Obviously, it's one of those ones that you don't really want to kind of touch because it can just flare up at any point.
Definitely, mate. I said that was going to be my last wrestling question, but I have got just thought another one I want to talk to you about. So before we get into about 5-10 minutes of football, I just want to ask you about. There's been so many wrestlers, mate, when I was growing up that have now passed away. You know, obviously they did touch on that in the Vince McMahon documentary. You know, I look at wrestling from back in the day now, mate, and I very rarely see a match where somebody has not passed away. You know, do you feel wrestling has improved in that front? I mean, obviously Bray Wyatt a couple of years ago now, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous, mate, the amount of wrestlers who have died young, and it's obviously just through, you know, steroids and working too hard because they were working a lot harder. Maybe that's what, I don't know if you obviously you'll know more than me, but is that why they kind of split it down half? You know, where a lot of wrestlers are not really working as much now anymore. But what's your thoughts on that, mate?
So I'm gonna just put it down to the I mean, back in the day, like they wouldn't have the information that they do now. I mean, obviously, medical sciences came on tenfolds, not just in the last 40 years, but in the last 5 years. Never mind 40, right? 40 years ago, they wouldn't know they wouldn't know how to check for CTE. They wouldn't know how to check for all this kind of stuff on like early signs. It's the same with NFL. Like the NFL 40 years ago, there's a lot of the guys that worked in the NFL 40 years ago that are no longer with us because of injuries they sustained during the games. So it's I wouldn't say it's down to overworking. I would just put it down to they didn't know what to look for back then. I mean, you're talking a bit more recently. Obviously, we don't really want to bring up his name, but you kind of have to in this kind of sense. Chris Benoit, he was doing flying headbutts every match.
I was literally just thinking about that, mate. That's exactly
every match he did a flying headbutt, whether he hit it or not. That's like there's only so much you can do with your body to stop your head hitting the mat, especially from a big bump, right? I've done it myself, right? I've hit my head pretty hard off the canvas from big moves, and it's nasty. It sucks. Like you're very much discombobulated for a good 20 minutes after the match. But because back in the day, like the doctor staff and the medical staff, that they didn't really they had it, but they weren't as clued up. Like I think what they would have had in the medical staff is like a couple of guys who have done their first aid training and things like that. Like they know how to check if someone's okay. They know how to check if there's any broken bones or things like that. But they didn't really know how to check someone if they had been internally hurt. That's why they would always be going to like hospitals and things like that, because they just didn't have the facilities to check, or they didn't have the correct staff to check. So it's very much a case of they've improved on the medical side of things. They've improved on the staffing that they've got. But you bring a good point up there about like a lot of wrestlers aren't like doing full schedules. I mean, it was just the other day when I was scrolling through Netflix, and it was playing like the like teaser for WWE on Raw, and Bianca Belair showed up, and I was like, is Bianca Belair injured, or is she just not there at the minute? Because I was kind of like, I've not heard anything. I've not seen anything. No one's really said anything. I mean, we saw her. Was she not? Was she not there at the WrestleMania announcement?
I believe so. Aye.
So she was doing the travel for media. I couldn't get the word out there. She's doing travel for media, but she's just not on television at the moment. So I feel they are giving wrestlers a bit more of a leniency with time off, and giving them a lot more time off, because they obviously see that they're great at what they do, and they want to keep doing what they're doing for a long time, so they can keep the product rolling at a steady pace. So I would say they are definitely improving on letting the see, I hate calling WWE superstars wrestlers because they hate the word wrestler. But in the last few while, they have brought it back into television, which is interesting, to say the least.
But because when you watch like obviously, like I say, I watch a lot of podcasts and that, and then whenever kind of old wrestlers are on it, they're always talking about how, you know, you'll maybe see us on TV once, twice a week, but we were working 5, 6 nights a week, just going from town to town to town to town, and you know, as you say, mate, obviously you're putting your body on the line in a match or whatever, but you know, you still need to keep that adrenaline up all day, every day, and obviously they're having to work out as well and stuff. So there's no doubt, guys, like, you know, I think the top of my head, I think guys like who died young, British Bulldog, Brian Pillman, you know, all these kind of guys were obviously just taking too much stuff to try and keep going and going and going, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, and it's sad, mate. It's sad how it's all turned out, but hopefully we don't see much of that going forward. But aye, mate. So obviously, I know you're a Celtic fan. Tell me how that began. You know, in your early days and that, your favourite player growing up as well.
So again with wrestling, I got into football really late, like in the last 10 years, if that. Right, I was never. When I was like really young, like 7, 8. Right, we had a caravan over in Peebles, and all the other kids that were at that caravan site were obviously from Edinburgh, so they were all Hearts supporters, right? So I was just like joining the bandwagon. It's like I support Hearts, that the next thing, and then fell away from it when we got rid of the caravan, and I never really watched football. I watched obviously I watched like the Euros, like the World Cup, like that was very different because I was always Scotland proud. I was always Scotland proud, no matter what. But we're just never anywhere. So like I could never really see what Scotland had to offer. It wasn't until 2016, 2017, I started getting involved with ICW, and I met a man of the name Chris Renfrew. Became really good pals with Chris Renfrew, and as you know, he's a massive diehard Celtic fan. Obviously, he'd been going to games since he was young. Just Celtic daft, I would say. And he was like, "You don't get a choice. Like you're not getting a choice. Like you think you're going to support Rangers and around me? Not a chance." Like threw me one of his old school hoops colours and went, "There you go. There's your first shot." And that was it. That was the line was drawn. In regards to like favorite players growing up, I mean, the Invincible squad. The Invincible squad was incredible time to be a Celtic fan. But I'm more inclined to the players that we've got just now. Like I've got big love for Cameron Carter-Vickers. Just the Great Wall of Vickers, I like to call him, because there's no many people that get past him, and if they do get past him, it's Liam Scales' fault.
No, I agree, mate. Actually, funny you mention him, because somebody was saying to me when I was live on TikTok last night, who would you say is your favourite ever Celtic defender? And it made me think, and I was like, I grew up in the days of Mjällby and Baldy, and obviously I've seen Van Dijk, and you see all these really, really good Celtic defenders. But for me, Cameron Carter-Vickers is probably the best Celtic defender I've seen, mate, in my lifetime. He's amazing.
No, 100%, 100%. And it's mad to think. Hold on, let me quickly look at this again. Yeah, he's only 28.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't
He's
it?
only 28. I mean, Dyson Maeda is only 28 as well, which is mental. Like the team is, I mean, 28 is not really considered young anymore when it comes to football. When you've got guys like Yamin Yamal coming in at 16 and having to go off before 10 o'clock because he's still 16. Like,
what do you make of the current Celtic team, though? Obviously, it's not been the best start to the season, but I think we'll still win the league easily, to be honest.
It's listen, mate. Stranger things have happened, right? I don't want to count the eggs in my basket. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. We're playing very sloppy at the minute, I feel, right? yeah, we're getting wins, but the mistakes that are getting made. I mean, I love Cal McGregor, right? But he's just not at it. He's not. He's not as strong as what he was when he was under Bruni. And then obviously we were getting a glimpse of what he could do as a captain, and we're like, okay, this could work. And then this season started, and we're like, where have you gone? Like, what has happened in the space of the break that you are like just? It's like he's just no switched on when it comes to the games, and there's just these silly mistakes that are getting capitalized on by the other teams, and it's essentially that's essentially what's going to be the downfall. I'll openly come out and say it. I fucking hate Brendan Rodgers.
No, really?
I fucking hate him. I hate how he left Celtic the first time, and I hate how he's been welcomed back with open arms. I hate it. Right? If that was any other manager that did that, they'd have been told to get to fuck. But just because it's Brendan Rodgers, like, because what he did the Invincible season, aye, right, sound cool. That was fucking 7 years ago. The game has changed tenfold since then. I mean, the introduction of VAR is like killing the it was also required to move forward with what the image of football is going to be for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
What I don't like about Rodgers, what he's done this season is, obviously we've got the whole thing with the supporters, with the board and stuff, obviously calling meetings and that. Brendan Rodgers, for a couple of months there, during the transfer window, was coming out and making digs at the board all the time. They need to match my ambition, and I need to feel that I'm being backed, and basically, hinting that he's not being backed and hinting that he's not got. And then as soon as that was the day before the transfer window, and he was doing a press conference, and he was saying, we need to all be together here, and we need to all stick together, and I don't like it how the board have been treated. The board have done fantastic for me and all that. And I was sitting thinking, you fucking sat there for months slagging the board about how bad they are and how they're no backing you and all this. And then as soon as Celtic fans react to that or do something about it, the protest, he was going on about the protests as well last week, and that's not the Celtic thing to do and all this. And I'm like, you caused this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, also, but losing games is also not the Celtic thing to do.
Right. Well, exactly.
Like, we're a club with a great history. Like, we win games. Like, we win games. That's just what Celtic does, right? And this team at the minute, like, we've got a strong team. We've got a strong squad there. They're just not getting utilised the way they should be. And
No,
you brought it up at the beginning of the podcast there, the playing for the back. That annoys the fucking daylights at me. Right? It absolutely annoys the daylights at me. And one player in particular that's really starting to get on my tits is Arnie Ingles, right? There was a couple I can't remember what game it was, but there was a game where he was taking corners and he wasn't even getting the ball past the first line of defense. And I'm like, you're on whatever money you're on, right? And you can't get the ball over a wall of defenders. Like, you really need to work on your kicks and your ball positioning, because that at that level of football, that is not acceptable.
I completely agree with you, right? But see, the thing is, every game I watch these days, it's the same with everybody. It's kind of like they're aiming for that front post at times. You know what I mean? And I'm like, as you said, it never ever works. You can't buy the first man, but I'll challenge you to watch that, mate. See the next game you watch, and you see a corner. I guarantee at least a couple of times you'll see corners that it doesn't get by the first man in every match.
It's ridiculous. It's
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
There's so much money in football, and they're getting paid so much money, and they're just I just can't be bothered today.
I think, you know, you made a great point there about Callum McGregor not being switched on. I totally agree with that. I think he's no switched on. But I think one of the reasons for that being is obviously we all laugh at Rangers, you know, it's funny what's going on over there, right? But I don't think it actually helps us that we've not really got that challenge. Obviously, people are going about Hearts and stuff. Hearts are only going to make a challenge, in my opinion, mate. You know, they're a decent enough team now, but they're never going to win the league. So I think Celtic players like Callum McGregor are just looking at that, going, you know, what's the point in me being on my game 100% every game when there's no real challenge?
But this is. I mean, being in European football, you need to be playing like there's a challenge, because when it comes to the European games, they're not going to back down. They are not gonna come at us lightly. Like, they are gonna tear us apart limb from limb and make sure that we do not progress within Europe.
Definitely.
Like, you need to be playing every single game like it's your last. Drive. Oh man, I'm just. This is like, there's a reason why I haven't been keeping up with football as much lately, because I'm just like, wrestling annoys me enough as it is. I can't be bothered watching my team annoy me as well. And to top it all off, like, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan for the NFL. They're not even doing great either, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like, every one of my teams is just falling to shit.
Mate, I'd love to get into American football, but I don't have the patience for it, man. It's too long. It's too long.
So I was very much the same, right? It was very much the same for me. But me and my dad, we've been down to London the last 4 or 5 years to go to the NFL at both Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and Wembley. And when you're at the game, it's just totally different. It's so different because, like, there's just so much happening in the field. Obviously, when it's on telly, like, they're trying to like space it out. So, and they've got so much money going into ad revenue and things like that. Like, they just need to play adverts during, like, these big gaps of sorting things out and switching offense and defense. So I understand, like, it was very difficult for me to try and get into it when I first started watching it. But when you eventually, if you ever get yourself to a game, like, it's night and day. Like, you're not really. Plus, when you're at the game, like, those breaks, like, you can just quickly nip to the bar and go get more pints.
Aye, well, that's true. That's true. Right, mate, I've took up enough of your time, but I've got another 1 or 2 questions before you go.
Aye, shoot away.
First one is, mate, what's your plans for the future with Parkystreams? Obviously, you're big on TikTok, you're doing well on Twitch. Have you got any goals in mind?
I think one of my main goals is get a live show done. That's one goal that I've got, is having a live stream happening with a live crowd. And I don't know. It would need to be like a WrestleMania, so it would need to be like a 2-day event type thing. I mean, that's the issue we've got with wrestling at the minute. Like, the lot of the big pay-per-views is they're looking to get it to 2 days. So I would need to look at the logistics of getting a 2-day show. But that would be one of my goals for the whole thing, is just get people involved, bring something to the people that have supported, give them a chance.
Sorry, mate, go.
No, I just give them a chance to, like, experience the live stream in person.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd definitely get myself along to that, mate. So, the other thing I like about TikTok, mate, and is guys like yourself and that, there's obviously quite a lot of creators out there. I've noticed it myself with, you know, being a football podcast and that, is a lot of other podcasts are supportive and they'll kind of help you out in that. You know, you've got another couple of guys I watch are JE Wrestle Talk. He's good. I like him, and I like Stally. And I like how you are all kind of friends. Do you know what I mean? And you've been on their channels, and I've seen you kind of kicking about with them and that. And I think that's really, really important, mate. That the fact that nobody's bringing each other down, they're trying to support each other and make each other good. Big
Oh no, 100%. I mean, so when Jay and Stally, obviously they kind of like they had started doing a lot of the TikTok stuff, and they were doing really, really good. They were up in the 10Ks, 15Ks. When I first met them, they had put on a show. I say a show. They put on an event called Sabotage in Sheffield, where they had a lot of like I like both their communities came together, and it was just a day of wrestling fun. Like we'd watched a couple of matches. There was a 2K event. There was guys. There was stalls. Like Superpower Toys was over with a load of stuff. There was my man Rossi, who has a lot of like signatures and things like that. I mean, I got a Sabu signed picture, God rest his soul, because so when I was doing stuff with ICW, Sabu was over, and Sabu had to get driven to Edinburgh Airport for like at 3 a.m, and I was like, I'll do it. So I drove Sabu to Edinburgh Airport and just picked his brain about wrestling for the whole journey. And my one regret was not asking for a photograph or getting him to sign something for me. So when I told Rossi that story, he gave me a signed picture of Sabu for nothing. And I was like, dude, you don't need to do that. It's like, I don't need to, but I want to. So he was a lovely guy. Big shout out Rossi. He's also doing a lot of TikTok stuff just now with reactions. I mean, you said it yourself, mate. Like I've in the last 6 months, I have seen an influx of people who have been doing wrestling stuff, and I was genuinely feeling the same way, mate. Like we're all very supportive of each other. There's a few people out there. There's a few people out there that are I'm a bit confused as why they act that way. But as I brought up before, mate. Like I'm not a pizza. Like no everyone's gonna like me. I understand that. But when you're a Scottish creator and it's another Scottish creator, I'm like, maybe there was a wee bit of Scottish pride, but who knows? Like, I'm not gonna dive in. I'm not gonna dig into it. Like, I'm not losing sleep over it. They're not losing sleep over it. We're both thriving. We're just here to make people's day. We're just here to get people entertained. And whatever way that we can. And if we're both thriving and we're both doing well on TikTok, then there is no issues. But you're correct in the sense that a lot of the wrestling content creators on this on TikTok are very, very supportive of each other. Very supportive of each other. I mean, I don't know if you know. Do you know Heel Josh?
I don't think so. I probably should know that, but no.
So he's a wrestling streamer from Colorado, and he's like up in the high 300,000s in TikTok and things like that. So I've been kind of linking in with him. He puts great content out there as well. But he's kind of more focused on I say more focused. He's more moving into like doing various other things as well. With his content. So he's a good guy. I was in contact with Alan Owens for a while, but there was a video I was doing when I was down in London, and he was meant to give us a challenge for it, and he just kind of ghosted. He just disappeared off the face of the earth, and I was like, all right, cool, sound. But there's just the wrestling communities are very, very strange at times, but we are also very welcoming of everyone. Very welcoming of everyone. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or 55 years old. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, non-binary, they, them. Doesn't matter. Like we all share a love for professional wrestling. We all fell in love with an art form that is very much in a bracket of its own. And I just don't understand why there's all this hate going about. Like, I get we can have heated debates about who the best wrestler is and why this guy's better than this guy. Like that debating's healthy, But see the hate that some of the IWC that come out with, man, like it's unwarranted, it's unneeded, and it's just downright dumb, right?
The thing is, it's like, sorry, mate. The thing is,
No.
it's like everything, you know, it's wrestling's subjective as well. You know, obviously you have got things that are people are better at certain things or whatever. People have their own opinions on certain things, but it's like everything, mate. Everything's subjective. So it really is annoying when people get. It's the same with football. You know what I mean? I can watch a player or I watch a game and I see something completely different from somebody else, and they'll come in the comments with their hate and that, and I'm like, it's just my opinion. You know what I mean? So it's like, I totally get it, man.
I mean, there was one guy that I found on TikTok not that long ago, and he was talking about how AEW shouldn't be rivaling WWE with their shows, and I was like, I agree, but it's because of WWE that this has happened. So you can't be blaming AEW for something that WWE has done. And then a week later, AEW did the same thing, and I was like, right, okay, well, they're both just as bad as each other then.
Aye. Definitely, mate. But Parky, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. Honestly, just keep being you, man. You're smashing it. I was, like I say, just love watching your streams, man. I'll continue to watch them, and as well as along with a lot of others. So all the best for the future, mate, and take care.
Jamie, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me on, and all the best, brother. Take it easy, man.
Thank you very much, pal.